Hi guys, so this week I managed to read two books and I decided that I am going to allot a theme to each of the week, and the theme of this week was dystopia, as you guys already read in the title. The first book that I read this week is Fahrenheit 451, and I am just in love with the cover. There is this book which is sort of like a matchbox, and it's really interesting because the book really touches upon the topic of burning books. Like, even the first line of the book is "it was a pleasure to burn," so it just makes a full circle because of the idea that is talked about in the book and the cover. So I really like the cover of the book. Now, the thing about me is that when I started reading it, I had in mind the story of Frankenstein. I have heard about the story and I thought that the book is about Frankenstein. I don't know, I know the name doesn't even say Frankenstein, but this is what I kept thinking. I know it's quite dumb on my behalf, but it definitely sort of affected the experience of me reading the book, because I didn't realize that I was not reading the story of Frankenstein until I read almost half of the story. So I was expecting a monster called Frankenstein, but it's okay. The book still has a lot of amazing quotations. If you are planning to read it, please keep a pencil or pen with you because you would want to underline a lot of it. The book is basically a critique on modernism and technology, and something that really interested me, or when you read a book, there are different thoughts that come into your mind, and one of the thoughts that came to my mind was about the people that are in our society whose knowledge is solely based on the knowledge they gather from social media, and they never read books. So in this book, the story is based in a world, in a dystopian setting, where owning books is illegal. So that's why it touches upon the importance of books, and it tells you why the education that you get from books cannot be compared with the education that you get from digital media and other technological sources. So if you're a book lover, I think that you will be pleased to read the book. It tells us how propaganda is very easy when it comes to digital media, but books are the things that invoke critical thinking skills in us, and it also tells us the idea that if you want people to not rebel, then only feed them one idea, don't feed them anything else. And books, on the other hand, usually give different perspectives to people, and it confuses them because of that, because like people will have like one perspective, second, third, fourth, and now they have to choose which works for them, and they have to tolerate the existence of other perspectives, and books usually do that for people, whereas media does not. It also touches upon the idea that it should be people themselves who need to seek knowledge, and if they themselves are not seeking knowledge, then it's very easy for government and other powers to control them and feed them whatever the powers or the government wants them to hear. And propaganda is easier that way if people themselves don't seek knowledge. And that was really interesting. The whole essence of the book, in my opinion, is in this quotation, where it goes like, "But you can't make people listen. They have to come round in their own time, wondering what happened and why the world blew up under them." And that's the idea, that people themselves need to seek knowledge, otherwise it's of no use. Even if there is a person who wants to impart knowledge, they're not going to listen. And I think that was really interesting. Another important theme in the whole book is the idea of loneliness, and how in a society like that, people who are curious and people who don't really understand or like fit in the general society, they feel very lonely. And there is this quotation in this book that really sums up how the author explains the idea of loneliness. I'm going to read that to you guys. It goes like, "How do you get so empty?" he wondered. "Who takes it out of you? And that awful flower that one day, the dandelion, it had summed up everything. Hadn't it? What a shame. You're not in love with anyone. And why not?" The book has this main character named Montag, and he is a person who does not have any friends. He is not in love with his own wife. He does not even remember how he met her, how he fell in love with her, and when he asks her, she doesn't know, she doesn't remember anything about their love story either. So slowly but surely it sort of expands on the idea that he does not have any friend, but then he makes a friend and he doesn't realize that okay, I am making this friend, and then one day that friend is gone. So it was like he was very lonely, then now he has a friend, and now he's lonely again. So the emotion of loneliness is explained very well in the book, and then it's accompanied by the idea that he is living in a society that he doesn't understand, a society that is like so restricting that he does not want to live in such a society. So for me, this was an amazing read. I really enjoyed it. It is a quick read, the writing style is amazing, and I would give it a 4 out of 5 stars, which is a good rating from me. Lastly, I will mention that if you don't have the physical copy, the audiobook is available on YouTube. So if you want to listen to the book instead of reading it in hard copy, you can listen to it on YouTube. The second book that I read this week is Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, and I have mixed feelings about this book. The story is basically based in a futuristic world which mainly operates on the principles of science, and all of the laws in this world are made keeping in mind the happiness and stability of society. And is this society really happy and really stable? That is something that they unravel in the story. One of the main topics of the book is the idea of happiness, and that how happiness is different from every other individual, and what I find happiness in is not going to be the same for you. For example, if I am finding happiness in the art of drawing, maybe you don't find happiness in that. Maybe you find happiness in, let's say, offering prayers. For example, there is this person who finds happiness in poetry. In this book, there is this character who finds happiness in poetry, and he says that he wants pain in his life because that is going to help him write good poetry. Whereas there is this another person who finds happiness in praying to God or performing rituals for God. So that is really interesting. And then the whole narrative sort of shifts into the idea of individuality, that happiness is based on individual preferences, I guess, and then the importance of individuality. In this book, there are controllers who are controlling the society, and they are trying to repress individuality in the society, because if people sort of start to embrace individuality, there isn't going to be happiness or stability in the society. And as I said before, the whole story is based in a world in which laws are made keeping the idea of stability in mind. So the controllers are trying to make all of these humans so similar to each other without any individual traits that they almost look like identical twins. And in order to achieve that, in order to make everyone look the same way, work the same way, think the same way, what they are doing is they are conditioning them from a very young age, and they are telling them messages in their sleep repeatedly, so that when they wake up, even if they don't really understand it, they sort of inherent that thought. So it is a sort of sci-fi based I was gonna say movie, sci-fi based novel as well. But then the whole narrative shifts into a bigger picture, that is the incompatibility of existence of happiness and stability with individuality. So the main idea was that in order for the whole society to be happy and stable, you have to sort of sacrifice individuality and truth, which means that individuality and truth cannot exist simultaneously with happiness and stability. So that was the main narrative. It was sort of a criticism on liberal movement. It is the book is a criticism on modernism as well. But I felt that the book was the story was of a moral nature. For example, they were trying to tell us that, oh, you should not go towards modernity and liberalism, because things are going to get messy, and things are not going to be as utopian as we imagine them to be. And I personally like the books which do not direct us, they just put a narrative in front of us. The story of the book felt like reading a moral story instead of a general story. There is also a contrast between the world, the futuristic and simple, straightforward, happy, utopian world, or seemingly happy or utopian world of the book, and then the characters go to a place that is very backward, and people do not really practice liberalism. They are very religious and they perform their rituals. So there is the contrast between a futuristic society and a society from the old ages, and that was really nice. The new society is very simple and straightforward, the old society is complex, there are emotions involved. So the contrast was really nice to read about. Another interesting thing about this book is that we see the whole situation from different perspectives. For example, we are seeing the situation from the perspective of a person who is well conditioned and fits into the society. There is this person who doesn't really fit into the society, but he tries to. There is this person who is succeeding in this society, but internally he feels like a misfit, so he eventually leaves the society. There is this outsider from this other society, that is a different country, which is like the world that didn't really advance, the world that still had not experienced modernism. So this outsider comes into this futuristic society and he experiences the whole situation. So we get to see the whole perspective from different eyes. So that was really interesting to me. Overall, I did not enjoy the story, mainly because it felt a bit didactic. Didactic mainly means that the author is telling you that this is right, this is wrong, and is telling you to follow this. Usually a lot of children's stories are didactic, so this story felt a bit didactic to me. And also I felt that there was not a lot of depth. There was, I don't know, I have a lot of mixed feelings. Obviously it's a classic, but I would give it a generous 3 stars. These were the 2 books that I managed to read this week. The theme was obviously dystopian literature. It was really interesting to read them. I have read one more dystopian book before that, that was 1984, and I will say that 1984, if I had to rank the 3 of these books, I would rank 1984 as number 1, number 2 would be Fahrenheit 451, and number 3 would be Brave New World. I will be filming my reads of the next week as well, so if you are finding these things interesting, consider subscribing, and I'll see you next week. Bye!